So we're here this morning to talk about marketing. We're talking about marketing that works. And really specifically for real estate investors. So I'm assuming that you guys aren't here to learn underwater basket weaving this morning, right? It's all real estate related, right?
Right. Yes.
Marketing is very broad. You guys all get marketed and you market your own stuff every day. You maybe you just don't notice it. From the way you guys dressed today was marketing, right? Really was. One of the mentors I try to study as often as I can, funny name but great guy, his name's Ben Gay III. Yes, I said Ben Gay, like the liniment. And he's the third. So there was two other guys in his family before that. So I think you probably have to have a big sense of humor to be in that family, okay? But he says, paint your front door. And in the best and most common terms, that is, make sure that when people see you, if you are your product, what image do you want them to see? And how many of you got to see Matt Snade's presentation at the last meeting on branding? He's got a pretty good brand, don't you think? Very, very contemporary, very, he's paid attention to it. And I couldn't help but think, you know, Matt's paid a lot of attention to his front door. Okay? Well, we can project the image that we want to project if we are conscious about it. So let me explain. I've been buying real estate and transacting in real estate for about 15 years, maybe a little longer than that. But I had another job at the beginning. How many of you have another job? So you love this because real estate's your second job or your third job. Okay? Well, we get a little backwards sometimes. I used to be just a serial flipper. Flip houses, landlords were silly. I didn't understand them. I would sell to them, but I certainly did not want to be one. And so, you know, I had the Submariner Rolex watch, and I had the bright red BMW. Anybody fall into that trap? It's on the trappings of success. I'm the only one that ever did that. Okay, I'm guilty as charged. But what happens when you do that, and then you roll up to someone's house and you go, hey David, I can only pay you 50 grand for your house, and he looks at your watch and he looks at your car and he's like, you're a liar. See? So sometimes the image that we want other people to see, we have to be careful of, because everybody can see it. Everybody sees what you're doing, and then how do you rectify or rationalize why you're telling this guy you're poor? So then I got a little S10 truck with a couple dings on the side. And I made sure I kind of took some drywall compound and just kind of went like this on my shirt a little bit, right? And made sure that the last pair of shoes I wore when I sprayed a house, I kept them on. And it was not planned, but this time when I pulled up in front of this guy's house, and you guys ever have a car that keeps running after you shut it off? It's like, that happened, and I had this big smile on my face. Like most people might be a little upset that just happened, and I was like, this is awesome. This guy's totally going to think I'm flat broke. So, image has a lot to do with it. And as we go through these individual marketing pieces today, I want you to understand that I'm abnormal. My brain is not normal. Just please know that. After 10 years as a deputy sheriff, doing the kind of things you have to do in that job, dealing with the people you have to deal with, one of your only defenses is to either become really cynical and distrusting of everybody, or to develop what they kind of describe as tombstone humor. So you're kind of irreverent and kind of maybe a little sarcastic. And so I'm more than a little of that, but also what it teaches you to do is think in a way that others don't think. And when you're a cop, it's normal. Everybody is abnormal, if that makes sense. Your friends are cops, everything you do is cop stuff, you kind of alienate other people. But I kind of started flipping that over. So I'd be the guy that would, more often than not, find the homeless guy sitting in front of the 7-Eleven, because, you know, cops love 7-Eleven. You guys got donuts back there, and I can't hardly, it's like a magnet, it's like a tractor beam pulling me some donuts. But, you know, when I was patrolling back in the 90s, there wasn't 24-hour everything. The only thing that was open when we were working overnight was 7-Eleven and Winchell's. Right? Winchell's Donuts at 7-Eleven, because the donut guy working at 2 in the morning, he's very happy to have you come in his parking lot. Because he doesn't want the other guy with the ski mask to come in his parking lot. So, you know, this is Body by Winchell's right here. I've tried to drop it, but it just keeps coming back like a boomerang. So what happens is, you know, late at night, it's just you and the bad guys that are out. So what you have to do is kind of figure out how to get in their head. So when I tell you that there's some abnormal concepts, I'm warning you. You don't have to do everything that I'm doing. I just want to show you just a peek into, make sure that the image that you're trying to project, Jonas, is on purpose. And realize that sometimes your on-purpose image can yield benefits, right? Or negative consequences. And always be ready to change. Don't get so stuck on one way or one marketing piece that you're not able and willing to drop it and move on to the next one. Okay, speed of implementation, and we'll cover that a little bit today. So let me get a few things going here and show you what I mean. Are you guys done with the iPad yet? Still checking people in? Just whenever you're done. Is that clicking coming from the...
Yeah, it's a speaker.
I'm not trying to beatbox or anything, honestly. It's just happening.
Well, we can hear you back here without
personality.
You can? Are you sure? Because before, they couldn't. So let me show you. I'll zoom in on this. If you guys can't see this, let me know. This is kind of a common marketing piece. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
It's always good to have friends. I left this at the Denny's lunch yesterday, and Pete was cool enough to call me and say, I got it. Thank you. So this is kind of a common marketing piece that I see that got dropped on us. Somebody wanting to sell a house, right? This is the one side, and this is the other. So what does it say? Oh, hey, we just listed a house, right? What does that say? Do you know a buyer for this home? Call Rick. Are you thinking of buying or selling your home? There's never been a better time than today. Call Rick to see how he can get you the most money with the least hassle and in the least time. Also, ask for your free market analysis of your home's current value. Don't put it off any longer. Anybody ever see one of these? Okay. Why did he send this piece? He sent this piece because he's, for lack of a better term, right, he's farming for other sellers. Even though he says, you know, a buyer for this home, he's really trying to get other sellers to say, hey, I'm really good, David, and I will market your house too. Not a bad thing to do. Right, Riley? I worked for Keller Williams way back in the day, and they had all kinds of stuff like that just sitting there ready for you to order, print, right, drop them. So he is doing something when and again, here's the other thing. He actually doesn't have this house listed. It is listed, Randall, but he does not have it listed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? He can do that, but how many of them really do it? So what I want to make sure, one of these lessons is, in addition to, we're going to tear this piece apart a little bit and see how we could have done what he did right, what he did wrong, what you guys think. But here's the thing. If he didn't list this house, but he's marketing that house, that's using your head, right? He's trying to get other people in the market to call him, okay? It has a color picture on it. People like pictures. Don't you guys all like pictures? And color pictures? Yeah, that's even better. So the other reason I know that I'm fairly sure he didn't list it, even though I looked it up, and I know he didn't, is how he addressed it. Because he addressed it to my company, and I got a lot of these, okay? Like, he sent me like a bunch of cards. He just went down the same list I'm going to show you guys how to use today, which is what? Absentee owner record. So he found me off the absentee owner record, and he did a mail drop. I know that because we have, over 40 properties there, and I got 40 cards. It's an overkill because it was addressed exactly the same to exactly the same company. But the other thing I thought was kind of sexy is this picture. No, look at this picture. Grr, baby, look at that. He's like, man, I'm gonna list your house right now. Real estate is the only industry where we put our picture. You realtor guys always put your picture on stuff. It's so awesome, don't you think? I mean, I don't know how much confidence it inspires. My cardiologist doesn't say, hey, check out my picture. He just does not do it. I never get another card with the picture on it, except realtors. So I don't know. And it's okay, I've never met Rick. And again, sorry Rick, if you ever see this, I'm not really trying to pick on you. You're doing a good job marketing. Usually those pictures are from high school. And then you meet the guy, and you're like, where, are you his dad? So I bring that up because if you are going to put your picture on something, here's my advice. Make sure it's a current picture. And I would not just put a picture of myself. Maybe put a picture with you and your kids, or you and your dog, or something else. I just think that, for me, in the marketing research that I've done, that's wasted space. For me, that's just a waste of space. I don't want my picture on there. I would rather, he's got his website on there, that's good. Okay, so, some of the things I like about this card, some of the things I want you to pay attention to. Did he use, what kind of postage did he use? He used live stamps, okay? If you're going to do a postcard or a letter, I want you to be using a live stamp, a sticky stamp, right? Don't do the bulk sort. I know why you do it, and I've done it in the past, but if you're trying to get, sticky is the term for the day, right? Right, Mr. Kent, David Kent, we want sticky marketing, something that people look at and want to hold on to. And live stamps, and it's cool, he used the 29 center and the 4 center, whether that was by design or not, they look cool, right? Does everybody agree? That looks cool? Yes, David.
Why?
Why to use a live stamp? We're going to talk about this right now. How many of you still get regular mail? Everybody's hand should go up. If you can't, man, that's awesome. If you can somehow figure out how not to get the live mail, or maybe you just don't look at it yourself, maybe that's more accurate. What do we usually do? If you're anything like me, I sort my mail over the garbage can. Anybody else? Yep. And just, the feel of it, the look of it, I don't care what you're saying. I don't know why it's clicking. I don't know what they're selling. I'm just going to chuck it. Yeah, it's just ridiculous, right? Is it the button?
It might be finger button.
Okay, let me try this. Can you hear me without it? All right.
It's not as good, Sean.
It's not as good?
Put it back on.
I'll put it back on. The clicking is annoying as hell.
Over here, it's really good.
Oh, look, the tech guy's here.
It's also right here.
Okay, wait. Perfect real-time scenario. He hates the marketing. He thinks it's awesome. He's not hearing my message because he's waiting for the next click, and it's making him really PO'd. And what's that? Right. He's like, good. And Randall's like, oh, it's fine. I'm loving this, right? How about the guy who has equity and the guy who doesn't? Right? Riley's like, why would I sell it to you if I'm not going to make any money? And I'm trying to say, because you already know what it's worth. All right, we'll see if this one's less clicky so far. I'm not even, I'm just going to put it in my pocket, right? I swear to God it's not my pacemaker. It's shielded. I'm not kidding, I actually have one. December 3rd, 2010, for those of you who don't know, I died. Flat died in my office. Fell over, cardiac arrest, sudden cardiac arrest. Raise your hand, Kurt. He doesn't like me to tell him. He saved my life. Gave me CPR for 8 minutes until the paramedics arrived. I think they shocked me 8 or 10 times, got me back into normal sinus rhythm. I woke up a few days later looking at the ceiling, kind of looks like this. It was like, oh God, the plane went down, because I was supposed to be on a plane that night to fly to California to teach class. And then, so to put you in some perspective, but as a result, I have this nifty device in my chest. I'm battery powered. Kind of like Iron Man, that's the way I like to see it. I look a little like Robert Downey Jr. If you squint, put some dark glasses on, turn the lights off, or not. Live stamp. Because when we sort the mail over the trash can, David Sterling, we want it to stand out just a little bit. Any half a second longer you can hold that, I'm good. Because here's what we have to remember about marketing. The first job, good?
Yeah, we're good. You're good.
No clicking? No clicking. Riley, okay? Dude, Riley's going to stand up on the thing and he'll just give me the high sign. The first job of a marketing piece is to get open. Okay? Write that down. We are recording this. Write it down. Get open. Second, get read. Gary, right? Get it read. Yes. The third is to take action. So if we're losing on number 1 to get open, one of the ways we solve that is send a postcard. Right, Jim Bergen? You don't have to open a postcard, but you can still chuck it. So I up my chances, Caroline, of getting it read now by putting a live stamp on it. Just something about it. Okay? The other thing that he did that I like about this card is look at the type of media that it's on. It's really, I'll hold it up here so you can see it though. Maybe you can hear it. It's just cardstock. White cardstock. So it's kind of a stealth, has some good stealth capability. It's a white postcard, so it doesn't have to get open, right? It just shows up. He's got some color on it. Good. With a picture. Good. He's got some live stamps on it. Good. It's almost passing our trash test, isn't it? It's almost. Then we start to fall back a little bit, okay? Also because it looks kind of cheap, doesn't it? And it probably is inexpensive. But then we get down to the laser label. And here's another reason, or Tim, people throw trash away. If it's got a pre-printed label on it, trash. True? I mean, you guys have to tell me if this is sticking with you or not, because this is what I do. Well, now I actually keep them all, right? Why? I'm trying to study the competition. I keep them all, right? But let's think about this. So it's got color, it's got picture, it's got live stamp, it's on, a piece, it's on a piece of material, Eric, that maybe isn't quite associated with trying to sell me something. Because it's not in the value pack, or you know what I'm talking about, right? Then we get to the label, and the label's like, okay, well, shoot, you had me until the label. So labels are, I'm 50-50 on them. And here's what I mean. I know that he sent this to an absentee owner list, John. I know he did because I'm on it, and I just extrapolated back, Jonas, based on how many cards I got, how we got mine in, okay? I then am more likely than not an investor, a landlord, right? What am I interested in? Well, if you're anything like most of the landlords I talk to, you either love it, Chase, or you can't wait to get rid of this pig. And I'm betting that you are on the get rid of the pig thing. So what you're tapping there on the other side, you hope is, oh, I have one on that street too, and I want to dump it. Does that make sense? So to an absentee person, the label doesn't matter quite as much. Does that make sense? Like, you won't get as hurt sending labeled mail, Yoshi, to an absentee owner as you would to directly to an owner. Those owners, man, they're very vigilant. Yes?
So quick question. So for the cardstock, what about like hot pink, neon green? What are your thoughts on those?
Something like this, maybe.
Right.
Right?
I'm going to stand out.
Anything you're doing is good if you're doing it consistently.
Okay.
And then you have to measure the progress, Jason. So, yes, colors. Now, you want to be careful to minimize. You don't want the card to have more impact than your message.
Okay,
right? So when we use colors, though, like I'm looking at Tim's One shirt, right? His One Realty. And I looked at Matt Snake's Move. You want to incorporate your colors on anything that you're doing.
Right.
But colored cardstock doesn't really get a lot of results, with the exception of the one killer piece that I'm going to show and share with you. Some of you are already using it. How many of you are using my postcard mail piece with any success? I know some of you are, you're not raising your hand. That's okay, you guys can be stoked about it. This is the only color that I've used, and I'll show you guys that's pulled, not give me detrimental results, but I think probably contributed.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So, this is an example of pretty good piece. Would you guys agree? Does anybody have any questions on this or comments or want me to clarify any things that I've said so far? Yes?
So do you suggest using like smaller denominations of stamps to add up to that, or?
Good question. He's saying, do we suggest using smaller denominations of stamps that add up to that? I don't want to use any more than 2 because then you start to crowd out your message. One of the things I learned a long time ago, and I can't even tell you which marketing thing it might have been I can't remember their names right now. Hallmark Kennedy or something. Maximize your white space, right? You can maximize your white space, then you're going to get more attention to your message. And so I wouldn't use any more than 2 stamps on a postcard. If you guys are going to start to do letters, you guys can get crazy. I mean, I've seen lumpy mail, I've seen people tell you to send all kinds of stuff. And my friend David and I have looked at all kinds of mail, and I tell you what I think I found is that whatever you're sending, track your results to know if it's working. Right? So 2 stamps most on a postcard.
How would you improve upon the label?
How would I improve upon the label?
Is there something that can do a font right directly to the card?
Here's the deal. You're talking kind of handcrafted artisan style cards versus volume, right? So what you can do is you can handwrite them. I know nobody wants to hear that. Okay? You can use a font that looks more. It's not so much the font data as it is. It's an actual label. Does that make sense? And no matter what you put on the label, it's still a label. Okay? So if you're going to do small batch stuff, you guys can see Emily furiously writing away. Emily's actually doing cards front and back by hand. That's seriously old school, but it really pulls a really high response rate. So what I can suggest is print one side in a font, and I'm going to show you a company that does that for you. That'll scan your fonts, and you can use them. And just use Word. You just type it, and it prints it out like it was your handwriting. And you can change the color and all that. Really, that's my point, is that if you're dumping a lot of mail, that's just the most efficient way to do it is with a label. I still haven't figured out how to not use the label and do, I know we're talking, you're doing 1,600 a week, you want to use labels, right? Anybody agree with me? Disagree with me? Who's another one over here? Yes?
I just noticed that most realtors put cheesy, I call them cheesy, statements about themselves, buy or sell, you pick Rick, things like that.
Pick Rick.
And, you just go, why do realtors always have cheesy things? But
Right.
anyway,
Pick Rick, pick your nose,
my
pick a
question
seed.
is,
Yep.
would you have something cheesy, like I call them cheesy, statement like that on there?
Do I have a cheesy statement?
Would you
No,
put one?
I don't think my stuff is cheesy, but maybe. Sometimes cheese is good, right? This is part of, somebody thinks they taught him about personal branding, right? I mean, one guy that I think has pulled it off is the Marshall, Aaron Marshall. You guys know that guy, Carol Williams' agent in Utah? No? He puts a ton of ads out. TheMarshall.com. His name's Aaron Marshall.
Marshall Group.
The Marshall Group, right? And that kind of works because that's, okay, Marshall, all right, cool. You're kind of the new Marshall in town. I don't know. But okay, this is a good point though, Dick. How many realtors do we have in the room? Okay. Realtors control, the last I checked, and I think this is held, about 90% of the inventory at any given time. That's a powerful group of people, but let's be realistic. Only about 20% of the realtors do anything. Is that a fair statement? The top, Randall.
If you close 12 a year,
Right.
it puts you in the top 10% nationwide.
So 12 a year puts you in the top 10% nationwide. So there's an awful lot more realtors out there. doing it, I kind of call them the hobby class of realtor. They've got another income, they've got a pension, they've got a spouse that's got some money. Because listen, it's not cheap to be a realtor. Can I get an amen from the realtors?
Amen.
It's expensive. And you got to go to continuing education, and there's always another fee or some kind of thing you're supposed to pay, and that's not cheap. But the point is that you fall into those things. You fall into, well, so-and-so's doing it, and I'm going to do it. And this is what they don't own it, David. So you guys have to own your message, because here's the problem. If I call Rick on his Pick Rick thing, and Rick has no personality, right, Randall? I'm going to just dump him. I'm not going to list with him. And the lifeblood of all realtors is listings. They will tell you this, and I agree. List to last. If you get listings, everybody else will sell your houses. Is that true in this market, especially right now? You bet. You bet. The biggest problem with any piece is you put it out and you don't answer your phone. Huge error. Or you do answer your phone, and you're not as suave and debonair as your picture suggests. You've built this awesome brand, and it really just puff piece, right? So realtors are prone, yes, to some weird slogans. Lots of people are. And if that's you, I suggest you put a little bit of yourself in your marketing piece, because you're the one that has to own it, right, Lyle? When they call, and they will call, you have to close. That makes sense? Okay, should we let Rick up for a minute? Let him off the mat since we knocked him down a little bit? No, really. What I will tell anybody in here is if you're doing any kind of marketing at all, you're probably in the top 10%, probably top 1%. I'm going to even go so far as to say less than 1% of real estate investors, whether you're new, in the intermediate level, Chase, or advanced, less than 1% of you have any marketing that you do at all. That's kind of sad, but we do not really attribute very much value, Josh, to marketing. We just don't. I don't know why we don't, but we don't as a group. Probably because it costs money. Would you guys agree with that? And we all are cheap. Anybody in here not cheap? Raise your hand. No one ever raises their hand. Because that's the guy that buys lunch usually. Oh, he's not cheap. Oh, he's buying lunch. So, yeah, I'm going to take some of the labels off. Okay. So, this is, after years of clinical research, this is the piece. Let's flip it over. This is the piece that I've been using quite successfully. Some of you said, don't show that piece today. Keep it a secret. Well, the cat's out of the bag. And as soon as I show it to you, what am I going to do? I'm going to change it. I will. I'll change it. Not because I'm showing it to you, but because it's time to try other things. Does that make sense? Raise your hand if that does not make sense. If it does not make sense, I got Jason, okay?
Sean?
Yes?
Can you touch on, basically, you mentioned earlier, what you basically said is fail early, fail fast in marketing.
Mm-hmm. Randall brings up a good point. He said, fail early, fail fast. A good marketing plan is nothing without implementation, okay? So, what I find a lot of you doing is you'll study, and you'll practice, Tim, and you'll sit there, Lyle, and you'll develop the perfect message, and you're going to do something no one else has ever done before. And then you don't. You put it off, right? The next step to that is you start it. And it's such a huge undertaking, right, David? It's such a cool thing. Maybe you're sending out Buzz Lightyear spinning lighted toys. I don't know what you're doing. Oh, call me for the Buzz of a lifetime. Ah ha ha, something funny. It's too expensive and it's unsustainable. And now you're failing again. So you either fail to even start, or you start and it's so overwhelming to you. Remember, you guys have more than one job. If you put something together that's really intensive on a labor thing or a cost thing, you're going to stop, Gary. You're just going to quit doing it, and you're going to get knocked out real early. Because your early failures, instead of inspiring you, Riley, they will knock you out of the box. And you'll just say, this stuff doesn't work. I didn't get one call. I'm gonna tell you, if you're not sending out hundreds of pieces a month, if you're not sending out hundreds, you have no way to know. Because listen, I'm going to show you this stack, and this isn't all of them. These are returns. These are comebacks. This is stuff that came back. Address not known, return, whatever. And this is 400 a week. And again, this is not all the comebacks. So what are you learning from this, as Randall said? Cull your list, right? These need to come off your list because what? Why remail to these people? Fix it or dump them. Okay? So when we talk about fail early, fail often, what's working? Is your piece getting out? Did you put stamps on them? Some of them went out with no stamps. Not a lot, just a few. Some of them went out with stamps and no address, and they canceled the stamp. Dang it. That was, man, I had a bone to pick with the post office. Okay? Okay, so what I'm saying is this piece right here was developed just from little pieces that I had learned, the input that I was receiving from return phone calls. So we start at the top. I want to buy your house in. Well, listen, let's think about this. This one says Orem, right? Right? Well, I can't just do a bunch of these cards and send them not to Orem. If the house is not in Orem, are they going to notice? I think they will. So this is more targeted. Like I have to actually sit down. I don't sit down. Emily sits down. I thank God for Emily every day because she just writes and writes and writes. Thank you, Emily. She has to know that she's sending to Orem, right? So I want to buy your house in. There's a space, right? So she can pre-do these cards and leave that out, whether it's Orem or Salt Lake City, right? But that right there is one piece. I want to try to be specific to the city that I'm targeting. Does that make sense? I'm targeting your house in Orem. You may live in California, Reed, but the house I'm targeting is in Orem. Does that make sense? Then I pay full price. Can you see the underlining under full price? There's red underlining. I pay full price. Does that say I pay over asking price? But what do they read? Full price. The next line. I am not a realtor. Why do you think I put that in there, Darren? Because they know I'm not trying to get a listing. Right? Because 99 out of 100 callbacks I make, or 99 out of the 100 calls that Emily gets, are you a realtor? First call or second question right out of the box. Are you a realtor? I'm trying, even when they get this, they still ask. Okay? I'm not. That doesn't mean I haven't been, or that I don't like them. I'm just trying to make a distinction between what one is and what one isn't. You guys get that? If you're a realtor, and you do this card, put somebody else's name on it. Talk to your broker. But if you send a card with your name on it and you are a realtor and you say you're not, I'm pretty sure that's a violation of something. Okay? So don't lie. But, if Randall put my name on there, or somebody that wasn't a realtor, we could answer that call. Then we could say, I got a good buddy named Randall. He would love to come over and give you an evaluation, or let me call my buddy Randall to send you the cost data. Does that make sense? So if you are a realtor, just don't use that line. Does that make sense? Call now for an offer. And then I have a number. Now the number is important for a number of reasons. Okay.
That makes sense.
For quite a few reasons. How's that?
You got it.
That's a Google Voice number. Okay? If you're not familiar with Google Voice, it's a very cheap, because it's free. We all are cheap in here, you already said that. It's free, and it works pretty good. There's been a couple times when it's kind of gone down on me. Not too badly, it just breaks a little bit sometimes. But you can direct it forwards. Like it can forward to a cell phone, and it can have certain hours of the day and days of the week that it'll go there. You can have Google Voice will take it. So in other words, the actual system itself can take the voicemail. You can tell your cell phone to take it. It's just really cool. If you haven't gone there, it's free. It's googlevoice.com. Sign up. Okay? and then it has my name. Okay? So we run multiple ad campaigns with this same message, just use a different name and a different number. Yes, Yoshi.
Sean, do you think if you would have put Sean W. instead of Watkins, would that alter your callback? And the only reason I'm asking is if my wife was to send this out, like I have a friend that she blasted and she was attractive, and then all of a sudden on Facebook she started getting people, and she's like, she thinks it related to her mailings that she did because she had her picture, and all of a sudden all these guys started trying to friend her. And so
yeah, guys are totally weird.
Yeah. So, I'm wondering if to make it difficult to find you on Facebook or whatever, Sean W. would be harder to find than Sean Watkins.
It's a good point, Yoshi, but I've had it work for me, actually, because people will Google it, and then it'll link to SLREIA, or it'll link to investors' workshops, and then they'll say, oh yeah, I looked you up.
But you're not hot, Sean.
I know. But so if you would let me finish before crashing, I'm going to have a donut right now. Somebody bring me a donut. So this kind of links back to my cop days and teaching weaponless defense to women. We've all heard the really bad stories about women realtors getting caught at an open house or showing a home, and horrible, terrible things happen to them. That's just a fact of life. So the good point to that is, if you're going to do this, and if you're a female, yeah, shield yourself, okay? That doesn't have to be your name on there. By the way, it doesn't have to be your real name at all, right? Our good friend Ted. What does Ted has these websites, and it must make people mad. Jen buys houses. It's Ted, it's not Jen, but it says Jen buys houses. There is no real Jen, right? So yeah, there isn't. Sorry, Ted, wherever you are, I told everybody your secret. It doesn't have to be, just so you know who to answer, like how you're answering. Does that make sense? So yeah, if you don't want to put your name on there, you want to use an initial, or you want to use a pseudonym, that might be great, especially for safety reasons. And but again, on the other side, I found it's actually worked. People go, oh, you work for real. I found you on this, or I found you on that. And I'm like, my question is, how do you know that's me? I just put a name on there, right? Yes?
Is there a way to use multiple Google Voice numbers so you can do that a bunch? Because it just let you use.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, is multiple Google Voice numbers. Somebody else might be smarter than me, but I've only found out how to use one, and it attaches to, like, also I've tried to have my cell phone number attached to more than one, and when you do that, it drops you off that one. We're moving to another, probably like a Ring Central or something, because our call volume is actually getting greater. So what you have to do is just start moving up the chain, I guess. But Google Voice is good for what it is, but you can have multiple cell phones attached to one Google number.
Not more than one.
So, right, so phones are pretty cheap. Actually, some people just go get like Brandon, you said you have like a special purpose phone that just rings Cricket, or some, you could do that. That's another alternative, but you're paying. David, you good? So this is really the extent on the back. That's really all there is. And I do that, you notice what's missing on there. There's no picture, right? After I just got done telling you pictures are pretty, there's no picture, right? There's no website. There's no catchy slogan.
The color is getting attention, I mean, because that's a different,
The lined color does draw your attention, okay? And when I use white cards, I take a highlighter and I highlight buy, full price, and call now, okay? Because I do use white and I do use the color. Yes, Eric?
Do you buy these cards already striped?
Yeah, they're right here. Let me see what they're called. Oxford. And by the way, they're like selling out everywhere. Up in my office, everyone's like, I needed to get there before he got there because he bought the last pack. Well, guess what? I just ordered a whole bunch of them. So, okay, David from Quill. So we'll drop them off to the office. Oxford color bar ruling is what they are. 4x6. Okay, get them at office supply. So they're already striped. Yeah, I would really be labor intense if I was striped, like child labor, striping all the cars. Yes, Serena. We put this. I'll flip it over.
Or do you put the
Hold on, guys. What's that?
Do you put them in the envelope?
No, just they go out just like that. I don't put it in an envelope. With the stuff, flip it over and show you the other side. So it looks just like that. This one came back, so this one has to come off the list. So you put the stamp on the top right, you hand address it. Something you can't get with a font or a label, see where the 8's been gone over a couple times? You can't get that. And that's not by design. That's the human element. It just happens. So you have to understand, what image am I shooting for with this card?
Personal connection.
How often do you target the same area?
Cheryl said, how often do I target the same area? Let me give, sometimes just one time, depending on what piece I'm using. With this piece, it goes out one time in the cycle, okay, unless, and again, this piece right here, that I use this piece for absentee owned property, okay, and we all know what that means, that the tax bill goes to a place other than the site. So if you have a house, this house on Madison Drive is not the house I'm trying to target. That's where they live. The house is in Orem, didn't it say on the other side? So they live in Sandy and the house is in Orem. Right? So this goes to absentee owners. The other group I mail to this are free and clear property owners. So they don't owe any debt on the property. That one's a harder one. I had to actually go back and buy that list from DataTrace and CoreLogic. I don't even know if they even exist anymore. But those are the reasons, and they're specific. I don't just do, have you guys heard of Every Door Direct mail from the U.S. Postal Service? Every Door Direct, you can hit like zip codes and stuff, but you can't sort who owns and who doesn't. Okay, so that's more of a, like a dropping them out of a plane leaflet approach, which works too. So when I do this, I'm going for a personal connection. I don't want this to look like it came out of a big marketing house. And it doesn't, does it? Does it? Okay, work for a second. So this is supposed to look like I just sat down, scratched out a card, and mailed it out. So that's why you have all the imperfections in there. Also on the top left, this is important that I found, that's a live address. That is actually my office address. Okay? Why is that important? People will actually show up at your office. I've had it happen a dozen times. I've had it happen, I have two offices, right? I have one in California and I have one here in Utah. So we do a California campaign, we do a Utah. And they show up.
But show up good or show up bad?
Both. Show up good and show up bad. It always, huh? Oh, so we'll do a bad one that happened a couple weeks ago. We're sitting in the office. My office combines my property management business with my acquisition business. So front of the house is property management, right? Tenants come in, bell ding, ding, ding. We know somebody's here. Okay, good. Well, my 10-month pregnant receptionist gal was at the front, just hugely massive and cranky. Anybody wife get cranky when they're pregnant? Boy, don't. And so immediately she's ready to kill somebody. Okay, and this guy comes in, and all I hear is, what the hell do you people do here? And I'm like, listen, we have an office in Ogden. We have Ogden tenants. Right? Those of you that know me, I carry a sidearm. It's an old habit, along with the donuts. So I'm like, well, either Brittany's going to kill him or he's going to kill her. So I kind of peek around the corner, and he's got one of these postcards. It was actually one of yours, David. He's got one of these postcards, and he's like, what the hell do you people do here? And really irritated. And she starts getting up, trying to, and I come around and go, sit down, girl. It's easy, girl, easy. So she sits down, and I say, oh, you got one of our postcards. And then he locks on me, and he's like, why the hell did you send me this postcard? And I said, well, you must own a house, or you wouldn't have got it. And he says, yeah. And then the very next thing he says is, he says, Joe, how did you get my name? Fair question. Because they think that I'm like with the CIA or something. I swear, they think I'm magic or I tap their phone. And I've had this before, so it wasn't a panic thing, it was a normal thing. I said, you know, hey Joe, it's a matter of public record. I'll tell you exactly how I did it if you care to know. And so his shoulders kind of went down a second, right? And then he started crying a little bit. And he says, well, you mailed this to my mom and she just died. Okay? Now I was kind of getting a sense of why he was so upset, right? And he says, I have been getting letters and phone calls of people trying to scam my mom's estate for the last month. And he says, I was sure you guys were trying to pull something. And I said, we just want to buy your house. And he said, okay, I can see that you guys are in a regular building. So I just didn't think I was going to come here. I thought I was going to find a post office box or a mail drop or something like that. So I talked with him a little bit. He lives in Ogden. The house is in Bountiful. He's going to try to turn it into a rental, right? So clearly I offered to manage it for him. Wouldn't you guys? Sure, right? So we've got that guy, and I think that we probably made a pretty good friend. There's no magic ending, like I didn't buy his house on the spot or anything like that. But they will show up. And it happens in California, it happens here. They'll show up, oh yeah, you know, what do you guys do here? Right? Same question. So it can help and it can hurt. In California, the market is, you think it's bad here, the market's insane. It's 2-3% a month increase down there. And they show up thinking that, again, you're faking them out. You don't really intend to buy the house. So if you put a post office box on there, don't think somebody's not going to check it out. Does that make sense? And in my experience, if you do put a P.O. box on the top left, it's round file. They're going to chuck it. What do they think you are? Not serious. Does that make sense? And do we have time for not serious buyers right now?
No.
You guys don't? Yes, David.
Would it hurt your thing if you had a stamp, I mean, one of those things like that, for your return address?
Would it hurt? It doesn't hurt. A couple people use labels, the really nice return labels for your return address. So it won't hurt you if you have a stamp, as long as you have a real address. And again, I'm not saying it has to be your home address. Going back to what Yoshi said, be smart. Don't put your home address on there. You're just inviting people to show up and peek in your window or rip you off. Don't be like the guy in KSL, one of our tenants, who we got a call at 4:30 in the morning from the police that somebody just did a home invasion robbery on this guy. You know, I was logically concerned because he's like, my rear door is shattered. We need to get in there and put a new door on. And I go over there with my handyman really early and we're securing the door. And what they take? Oh, they took computers and they took stereo equipment. And I said, well, how did they know that it was in here? I don't know. I've been trying to sell it on KSL. I said, did you put your address on KSL? He goes, yeah, so they could come pick it up. I said, they did. They totally came and picked it up. You told them where you were, what you had, right? Don't do that. Think a little bit. You know, he said, I can't pay my rent because I was going to sell that stuff to pay my rent. Anyway, be smart. So that's not where I live. So I know I'm not hot, Yoshi, but don't come to my house because I won't be there. I won't be there.
So you're just getting started though, and you don't have an office where people can show up. What kind of need down?
Okay, so what he says is if you're just starting out and you don't have an office where people can show up, this is where I preach the power of networking. You know somebody in here that has an office space? If you don't, talk to them. See if you can use them as a mail drop for you. Just make sure they know you so they go, yeah, I'm here. This guy Lyle sent me a postcard. I have no idea who you're talking about, right? Does that make sense? We do this for a lot of investors in our office. We get lots of mail. We have tenants coming in. We don't have a problem. You know, now if you're mailing from Provo and you have an Ogden address, that might look a little weird, right? But if you're a little bit further north and you want to use our address, that's fine. I'll let you use our address. Just tell me before you send the mail, okay? Let me know so I don't pull one of those. I don't know who you are, right? We don't know where to set your return mail. So that's what I would do. Ask a friend who's in the business. If you're a broker, it's kind of, you have a brokerage, you know, it's easy. Can you guys get brokerage rental? Can individual agents get mail? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say for $30 a month, you can get an actual street address through one of the UPS stores or somebody else. I've done that.
There you go. What did you ever say? Mailboxes, etc.
You'd be there if somebody showed up though, right? Wasn't that the...
No,
Yes, but it doesn't say P.O. box.
No, what he's saying is it'll stop it looking. It won't be say P.O. box. And then that. Listen, out of the thousands and thousands of cards I've sent, they physically showed up 12 times. But let's look at that ratio. How many times have they driven by? I couldn't tell you. Does that make sense? I'm trying to just set you guys up for the, maybe I'm being too, if I get too driven in the minutia, would you guys let me know to just shut up and move on? David will. Yes?
I was gonna say, we have a UPS box and you basically just put number 140 and they're driving through and it's a strip mall. So as far as they know, they just can't find your location.
Okay.
So at least they know that there's a building with that address.
Eric's saying he's got one from the UPS store, you say? And it says Suite 140. And so as far as they think, Jay said, they're just driving through and they can't find your actual suite, but they know it exists in there. So that's another good point. Yes, Jim?
Post office do the same thing now for half the price of a UPS store. Get a post office box. They'll accept UPS and FedEx deliveries.
Okay.
And you just use the street address of the building.
Okay.
And your PO box number.
Got it. Or an old trick that a friend of mine used to use, he used to go and find some vacant houses that he wanted to buy anyway and put his return address there. And then he'd show up and he'd pick up his return mail and people thought he owned the house. He'd be like, yeah, I'll sell you this house, see? And then he'd try to, no, too far?
What's the difference?
Move on. That friend was actually me, right? I got a friend that did that. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, look, we'll take a quick impromptu. If you want to sell a house, if you want to get an owner of a house to call you really fast and you can't find it, what's the best thing to do? Yeah, stick a sign in the yard, right? And it's got your number on it instead of their number. Right? Yeah, that one works. Sometimes it works too well, right? Everybody calls you. Cops call you, right? They'll show up. They'll call you. The seller will eventually call you. More than likely, it's the neighbor that will call the seller and tell them that, hey, we didn't know you were selling your house. I didn't either. Whose sign is in the yard? Right? Don't do that if you're a realtor. I think that'll get you in trouble. I'm positive that's going to get you in trouble. And I want to make sure that I don't say anything that's getting you in trouble. And you guys have heard me tell the story of a gal named Amy that heard me say this, and she was really excited. She'd been chasing this house now for like 6 months, couldn't find the owner. Skip tracing didn't work, knocking next door didn't work, nothing worked. And she put that sign, and in the first 5 hours, she had 29 people call her wanting to buy the house. Huh? One of those 29 was the homeowner that didn't tell her that they owned it. So she's excited. She actually called me and said, this is working like a dream. I can't believe it. 30 minutes later, you need to call me. The police are at my door. I called back. She didn't answer because she was with the cops, right? She called me back later. She's like, oh, man, I've had a bad heart attack. And I said, why? Well, they showed up. They knocked on the door. They go through the whole, do you have a sign in the house over this yard? Yes. Do you own that house? No, sir. No, I don't own that house. Well, this guy says you're trying to sell his house without him. She says, no, sir. I just wanted him to call me. And I figured if I put my sign in the yard, of course he'd call me. That cop looked at her for like 2 seconds. That's the smartest thing I've ever heard. But go get it out of his yard because I don't want to go back there. So she hurried over there and pulled the sign out. She said, I don't think I'm going to do that again. I said, Amy, you had 28 buyers for that house. Are you sure you don't want to do it again? She said, maybe I'll make my husband do it. Right? That's what we're good for. Right? Taking the heat. So this is an example of a piece that's very targeted. It doesn't have any color. It doesn't have any pictures. There's no website. There's no text me here. There's a maximum amount of white space, or white and purple space, on this side and on the other side. Right? Do we see that? It's in a hand font. Okay? Why is that important? I'm trying to give them the impression that I'm just a small operation. Remember, this is, if you pull up in the BMW rocking the Rolex, they're not going to believe that you're poor, are they? If you send this, full glossy, all kinds of stuff, UV coated, see how it kind of shimmers? That you spent a little money on that. Now you look. Now if you're trying to buy postcards in Matt Snade's neighborhood, you're trying to buy out, you better send this. Don't you agree? Right. When he's trying to buy stuff $500,000. If you're trying to attract a person, they want the flash. They want you to roll up in that Audi. That's what they want. They want you to wear Matt Snade's pretty boy shoes. They need to see you doing that. Randall, who are the top 3 multi-million-dollar listing agents? He probably knows all 3 because there are probably only 3. See? Why are they the only 3 or 4 of them? Because they attract money. Okay? So this kind of, and again, I don't do them, so that's why I don't have one to show you. But this is from a company called, and I don't know where Justin Kuchar is, but he's awesome, and he told me about this company, gotprint.com. It's down there in the bottom right. They're the cheapest, by far, printers I've seen in a while.
Postcard Mania is pretty good too.
Is it? These guys don't just do postcards. They do. I got a whole deal here from these guys. They send a sample kit. They do all kinds of neat stuff. And anyway, they're really cheap. So it's gotprint.com. So this has just got a different look to it, doesn't it? How about all this? There's like trifold brochures, right? You could put some trifolds out, just cheap. Real inexpensive stuff. Here's one thing that I really like that they do. Hold on, oh, did we get rid of it? I hope we didn't. They do door hangers. Glossy door hangers, and they're really very inexpensive. Okay? So that again, there's our piece, why we're targeting it. You want to do a glossy piece depending on your audience, right? Now, for mailing, when you're doing direct mail, I have not had a lot of success with letters. You know, yellow letter, some people have, but I did a side-by-side comparison to the list I mailed to, and the postcard just killed it. At least 2 or 3 times better. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know if it's, yes?
You can finish your thought. But.
I don't know if it was just my yellow letter that was horrible, but I put the same words, and it just fell flat.
Do you, if you don't get the card back, obviously they're receiving it, do you mail them again, and how soon, and do you change your marketing?
Okay. Eric's point was, if you don't get the card back, do you mail them again, and how soon do you mail them? This goes back to whoever else asked how many times you hit a market. Cheryl asked that. In Salt Lake County, when I pulled the absentee owner list, there were 42,000 records. Well, how long is it going to take you to mail 42,000 once, much less multiple times? A lot. Who's deep enough to send 42,000 pieces of mail a month? Right, that's what I'm saying, right? It's a little daunting. So, on the absentee owner list, I really try to then narrow it down. Like, I'm going to show you how to sort. I promised I would, Cheryl. Like, you sort out churches and you sort out restaurants and commercial property because they'll show you every absentee owner. So you cut that list down till you get to the stuff you want. Single family, if you're a condo person, condos. So you're already cutting the list down by that factor. Then I suggest, how many of you guys want to work at North Salt Lake, Sugar High, all your little areas, your Mill Creeks, and I don't pretend to know them all. Really, you guys have these new names that come up sometimes. I'm like, where is that? Oh, it's not a real city, it's just what we call it. You know? You guys are freaking me out. So, you can get specific to those. And those areas, I would hit harder. So, you guys have, you guys know or heard the term farm, right? I mean, everybody knows what a farm is. But when it pertains to real estate, you're trying to develop and become an area expert in one spot. And if you're trying to be, how many people like the Rose Park area? We're all cheap, so every hand should probably go up, right? Or Ogden. I like Ogden, clearly. Then you can just sort for those zip codes. And so there's just a field in there, right? There's just a field in there, and sort only for those zip codes that you want. And those I would hit. And what you want to do, in my opinion, is a 5-week mailing campaign. You hit them once a week for 5 weeks. Okay? And if you'll do that in a specific area that you're doing, you're going to start to determine, they're either going to call and tell you to quit sending me your mail, which then you can still get a chance to convert, because at least they're calling to tell you they don't like what you're sending them, which is a lie. because they called you, right? Or you just move on. So if you're going to do that, I would hit an area 5 times and then pull that off and maybe hit it again next year. It may just not be the right time. When I was mailing, anybody mail a notice of default list? Does anybody do that? Oh, that worked. You did. I was hitting that hard way back in the day, like 03. And it was right before, at least in California, right before it really kicked off. And I was getting a fair amount of response. But what I figured then was, I had a 5-week idea, but as soon as the NOD dropped, they all sent their mail out. And so mine just it mixed in with everybody else. So I waited 2 weeks from the filing date. So on week 3, my 5 weeks started. So I got it from week 3 to week 8. And I found my call rate went up and my close rate got better. So I've just taken that 5-week thing and applied it.
Do you send the same words or do you change it?
If I'm doing specifically NOD, I have a 5-week, the first 3 are postcards, the last 2 are letters, and I have slightly different verbiage for that 5-week foreclosure thing. If you just want to email me, I'll send it out. Anybody that's mailing foreclosures, I'll mail you that if you want it. I'll email it to you. Okay? Is that for free? So for frequency, 5 times, once a week for 5 weeks. That's how you're really going to ramp it up. Okay? There's another asked question. Yeah.
I just had a question. You said where you sort out the zip codes, but what website or where are you doing this actually?
How do I get the list? Okay, so any title company can get you these lists. And so you call your title company marketing rep. We like to call them donut dollies, right? They're the ones that always bring the donuts to your meetings, right, Randall? Call your sales rep, they'll bring you stuff, bring you marketing, and ask he or she for your list, right? So what they're going to want to know is what you want. So you say, I want absentee owners in Salt Lake County, or Davis County, or Utah County, or you can ask us for zip code. Sort by zip code. You can actually sort by northwest, southwest, north, southeast, west boundary. You used to, for those old timers, used to be able to use something called a Thomas guide. It was a printed map. Yeah, I remember those before Google. I was watching some TV show the other day. Anybody like Emergency? You even remember that show, Squad 51? Like my favorite show growing up as a kid, and I was so glad I found it. And I'm watching it today with my 11-year-old. If you didn't know the show, here's what happened. Firehouse, sirens go off, guys sliding down the pool, kids stuff, right? We love this stuff. Firemen and cops. Guess which one I was every time, right? I was the cowboy, right? I was the fireman, or the cop. Well, the captain had to go over to a rotary phone and pick it up, and then use a pen and write an address on a pad of paper. And my son Max was perplexed. He's looking at the TV, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at the TV, and he tears the paper and he hands it to the guy, right? And Johnny would open it up and start, and he's like, what's he doing? I said, he's looking up the address. He's telling him to Google it. He was, Google it. What? I said, Google. Did you see the phone he's using? It's attached to the wall. There's no Google. You say Google back then, they would have thought you had a stroke. They don't know what you're talking about. So, and I'm guilty of this. Sometimes technology goes faster than we're ready for it, right? I mean, look at your realtor keys now. Great when they're working, but getting to a place where you don't have cell coverage and you cannot open that box. That just happened to us a couple weeks ago. We're there and beep, 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 you know, error, error. And he's like walking around trying to get his key to blink up or whatever. I use the hand key, you know, that works. Not if you're a realtor. Sorry. That wasn't funny. Breaking and entering is not, that's too much for you guys? Okay. You're not a real investor until you BNE at least once.
So, like, when the title companies collaborate commercial and the churches and so.
Can the title company sort it out for you? Well, you know, they might. They typically don't. And here's why. At least from my perspective. Listen, remember, I'm telling you exactly what I do. That's why I told you at the beginning, Yoshi, I'm abnormal and I'm not hot. Okay? You have to sort it yourself because they don't know. Honestly, when I started asking for lists to mail, the title guy was like, called me back, you want what? I said, I want a list to mail. He says, mail what? You know, mail, M-A-I-L. I want to send some out to some people. He goes, well, nobody does that. That's exactly what he said to me. I said, well, what do you mean? Why don't they do it? He goes, I don't know. Why would you even do that? I said, to get buyers and sellers. He goes, okay, well, I'll get it for you. So he sends me this list, but he did not know what I was doing. So to ask he or she to sort for you, I wouldn't trust him to do that. So if you don't know how to use Excel, it's not really easy, but it's also not real hard. There's just a few fields. And Cheryl brought a laptop, and I'll actually show you live how to sort it. If you guys want me to do that, I'll show you. No problem.
When I got this, he actually asked me to give him specific zip codes.
Right.
And what I was looking for, so it's got 3 zip codes, townhomes, condos, and stuff.
So Cheryl says when she ordered her list, they asked, well, tell me what zip codes you want, and specific. So that's good. If they pull just single families and condos and stuff for you, that's even better. So maybe they're getting the hint. This was a few years ago when I started doing this, and they had no idea why I was even asking for it. So that's good that they're doing that now.
And the title company that I use only asks that I do Tuesdays at a time because he says they actually pay for those leads.
Right. So
He's like, don't, it's expensive if you ask me for a gigantic list.
right. So
Title
title.
companies have an unlimited source. That's all they pay.
Got it.
Right, well, the thing is that title companies, there is some cost associated, and there's a lot of regulation with title companies on what they're allowed to give you. I know that some title companies will actually give you the pre-printed laser labels for you. Like, they'll give them to you. And then you ask another title company, like, well, that's illegal, they can't do that. So, just be careful, I guess. I don't care, I am not licensed to be real estate broker, so I'm just like, hey, give me what I'm asking for. If you give it to me, I guess it's okay. Right? Make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you guys want to take a bathroom break or not. Are you guys okay? You guys want me to stop for 10 minutes? Okay, let's take 10 minutes. It's 10:20. Let's come back at